And we're back, Stripe Show podcast on a Monday. I'm your host, Travis Fulton. Thank you for making us part of your day. Hope you had a great weekend as we turn the corner. FedEx Cup playoffs now right around the corner, only 3 to go. And I think I saw a number on Twitter right around the 30 mark of days before opening week in the NFL. Baseball winding down. I love this time of year as we get closer and closer to the end of summer in fall. And the greatest piece of news for me is my kids go back to school in 2 days. That's exciting times. I can't wait for that. It's that time also here. About every 4 to 5 weeks, we bring our boy from Golf Digest, Daniel Rappaport, up early on the West Coast. How you doing, my man?
All good, all good. More lawsuits, more reading. I thought I was done with the book report part of my life, but we're back pouring through documents.
Well, we'll get to the live, right? I mean, that's where we're all going. That's what people want to talk about. I hosted a little happy hour in here in my studio last Thursday, and we had about 20 to 25 people in here. I mean, it is like, and most of these people I've never met before. And of course, they know I'm in the golf business and this and that. And they come in, hey, how you doing? Wow, this place is great. Hey, what do you think about that live? I mean, it's like you can't get 30 seconds into a conversation, and it is bam on you. What do you think? What's going to happen? How long it's going to be here? Is Phil always been like this? What's the deal with Bryson? I mean, it's just immediate. Same thing for you?
Same thing for me. Yeah, I was at a sister's birthday party. She turned 30 this weekend. Seen a lot of people that I hadn't seen in a long time. And they're like, yeah, what's going on with the Saudis? What's going on with Live Golf? I just think like once you have all these themes that are like Saudi Arabia and betrayal and loyalty and greed and money, it's basically like a soap opera that's playing out in front of our eyes. And it's just, I think people think of golf as so decorous and so gentlemanly. And now you have this like gloves off battle between two warring organizations. It's just really, really dramatic. Haven't seen anything like it since I've been involved in golf, and it's definitely in the short term brought more attention to the game. I don't know if it's doing damage long term, but short term, there's definitely more eyes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I mean, short term, for the podcast and my platforms, Instagram, like it's been great. The discussion, it's good for business. Long term, I've been on the record. I don't think it's the right thing for professional golf. I think it doesn't feel right. I don't think it's built on the right characteristics as we've seen with the PGA Tour, but we'll see how that plays out. I mean, make no mistake, Live Golf is here for at least 2 to 3 years. And is this a business model that's going to sustain itself? Look, they're never going to make money the way they're spending money. I don't care how many sponsorships they get, TV deals. You can't be paying players 200, 135 million, this and that. Maybe you can, maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems unlikely with the way they're spending right now. But before we get to that, and we're going to break it all down because there are lawsuits, and I want to ask you so many questions about it. I know the PGA Tour responded this morning, but we do need to talk about Tom Kim for a second here. I mean, this is a 20-year-old young man from South Korea, and he's been pro for, I think, about 3.5 to 4 years. Here's a guy that turned pro like 16, 17 years of age. From South Korea. He was the Order of Merit winner in Korea, Order of Merit winner in Asia, comes over to the PGA Tour. I got to admit, he kind of snuck up on me. I mean, I didn't really see this coming. He wins by 5 at the Wyndham Championship. Tell my audience about Tom Kim.
Well, he wins by 5 and he quadruple bogeyed the first hole. So he really could have won by 9.
Right.
By the phone here, my parents' house is going off. But yeah, this happened fast. This was someone that you're kind of hearing about for the last month or two. He gets into the U.S. Open, I believe, on his world ranking.
Yep.
Finishes 23rd, which is really solid. And then it's sort of on everyone's radar, right? You're a 20-year-old kid from Korea. You come to the U.S. Open, you make the cut, you finish top 25. And he gets into the Scottish Open, and he finishes, I think, third, either second or third, against a loaded field. Like that was, one of the best fields of the year. And you're starting to think, okay, this kid can really, really, really play. And then he last event of the year, there's one thing that he can do, and he can win, and he can make the playoffs, and that's what he does. I think there's definitely something to be said for turning pro at like 16. And I think Sungjae did something similar. So yes, he's 20 years old. He'd be a sophomore or a junior in college. but he's been doing this for a long time, and I think there's a level of comfort there and a level of experience that the American players, playing college golf is great and playing junior golf is great, but if you've been a professional for 3 years, you've been out there on your own, playing in these professional events against grown men. You know how it's done. So yeah, this is something that the PGA Tour has kind of talked about, is like there will be new stars.
Yep.
Basically what they're saying is if you trust in the system and you trust that this is the place to identify the best players, and then if some guys leave, then new guys will come. And a month ago, 2 months ago, no one knew who Tom Kim was, right? And now he's who everybody's talking about. He's 21 in the world. Like, that's what happens. I was looking at a tweet the other day that was like the top 10 in the world, and this is not exactly apples to apples because we knew about these guys, but like a year ago, Cam Smith and Scotty Scheffler were not in the top 10. They were good young players, but they weren't anything crazy. Not like, I guess, player impact program level players, or however you want to measure it. And now they're number 1 and 2 in the world. Things happen. Guys funnel in and funnel out, and it looks like Tom Kim is going to make the President's Cup team. That's a lock at this point. He's going to be on the PGA Tour next year, and there's another new star just like that.
Yeah, I mean, how happy is Trevor Immelman right now to see this young man emerge? I mean, to your points, the next stars are happening right now. I mean, you look at the FedEx Cup, Scotty Scheffler's 1, Cameron Smith is 2, there's Sam Burns. I mean, Scheffler and Burns, 1 and 3, didn't even make the Ryder Cup last year. They were Scheffler did. It was between those two. Scheffler gets the last spot, goes in and plays well, beats Rahm. Burns doesn't even get in. There's Cameron Young at 9 to join your regular Schauffele, Cantlay, McIlroy, Finau, JT. Sungjae sneaks in at 10. So it's already happening. And I think when you see the Korn Ferry Tour, you can see these guys turning. Like, we talked a lot about Sam Burns when he was about ready to come over. We've been talking a lot about Mito Pereira and Cameron Young, and these guys are arriving. And now here comes Tom Kim, speaking to the international flavor and just how big this game is now all over the world, makes his way over here in world rankings, and just absolutely plays incredible golf. He goes 3rd at the Genesis, like you said, 47th at the Open, 26th at 3M, 7th at Rocket Mortgage, and wins the Wyndham Championship. I mean, if he pars the first hole on Thursday, he wins by 9, for crying out loud.
Made every putt.
27.
27. Yeah. It's special. It's it's not just like he won by 2 or he won by 1. Like, this kid dominated and he quadruple bogeyed the first hole. I don't think anyone has ever done that on the PGA Tour before. I was Justin Ray's tweet.
Yeah.
At least as long as they've been keeping track. I mean, you quadruple bogey the first hole of the tournament. I think there's going to be golfers around the country now who they're playing their club championship. They're playing in their Saturday competition, whatever it is, and they quadruple the first hole, and they're going to say, you know what? Just got to pull a Tom Kim. That's the new thing.
I like it.
Tom Kim.
I like it.
In there, and you got 17 holes to bring it back, and he sort of provided an example for everybody to why you should never give up after a bad first hole.
On Tuesday, because that's when we look ahead and do the gambling picks, and we spent quite a bit of time on Tom, and I just kept saying, look, there's something there. Like, I can't wrap my arms around this young man yet. The way that he's playing, like, he's a good iron player. He plays from the fairway. All right, his putting seems to be a little erratic. His short game's better than like. There's something there. Like, he's 20. He speaks 3 languages. You listen to him talk. He sounds like this joyful 27-year-old young man out there. It's like I like this kid. There's something. We can't brush over this young man because of all the discussion of live and let it. And this guy, this kid's for real. I mean, he really is, and he's for real.
If there's any money left in the live war chest, they will be offering it to him because he is a great young player who is from Asia but speaks good English, which is definitely an asset. That's just a fact of the matter. And this is the exact kind of guy that they want to sign up if they're going to be considered a league that isn't just, for 40-something-year-old men. Because the last 4 or 5 guys they've signed, after they signed the Brysons and the Patrick Reeds, it was like Bubba, Charles Howell, Jason Kokrak, Paul Casey, like all those guys are older.
Yeah,
they're gonna throw an absolute bag at Tom Kim if they have a bag left to throw. And with the Saudis, they'll find a bag to throw.
Oh yeah, I'm sure those discussions are being had right now. Was it on purpose? How many times he said it's been my dream to play the PGA Tour, or is that just genuine from him? And it was like, as I'm listening to him speak, A, I'm just so impressed. B, I'm hearing all I've wanted to do my whole life, and just my goal is to get to the PGA Tour and win. And now I'm here, and I can't wait to keep, like you could just, it was like this perfect, just 2 paragraphs for the PGA Tour, endorsing this is what it's all about in professional golf. No one paid him to be there. He earned his way. And I mean, the story is just incredible. I mean, it really is. And like I said, he's going to be around. Now, speaking of that, the FedEx Cup playoffs is here. He works himself in. That's how they want things to work. You win, you're in. He had no status. Now he's a PGA Tour member because he wins. And the tour's fired up, right? I mean, they are so excited about the way that just went down. So they're in Memphis this week. FedEx St. Jude Championship, TPC Southwind, really an underrated course. I've always said Southwind deserves more. I'm a big fan of that course. BMW Championship after that in Wilmington Country Club. How about that?
Delaware. One and done. I don't think it will be back there. They're going to Chicago next year, and then it's going to be in Colorado. I think Wilmington's getting its time to shine this week.
And then the Tour Champ, of course, in Eastleigh when they get it down to 30. So it's here, FedEx Cup playoffs, 125 guys. Man, we've been talking about so much in the last couple months. You excited? You ready? Playoff time?
Yeah. I think it'll be good. I think because, obviously no one's going to go in the middle of the FedEx Cup playoffs. It's entirely possible that someone goes after to live, obviously. So I think we're going to get like a 3-week break here a little bit where the focus kind of goes back to the golf big time. Like, remember at the US Open and at the British Open, it felt like we had a week where we kind of forgot about the civil war within golf, or the schism, and we talked about the golf and we dove into the golf. And these are an underrated couple of weeks because the FedEx Cup is kind of a punching bag for golf Twitter, right? It's like, does this really matter? And they kind of cram the standings down our throats the whole season. But look, you get 3 weeks in a row where all the best players are playing against each other. And so as a golf fan, that's all you can really ask for. So I think, I am excited for 3 weeks of kind of golf.
Yeah.
It'll feel good after all these lawsuits that are flying around.
Well, let's talk about them because the lawsuit has hit 11 players. We got our boy Phil, boy Bryson, Ian, Gooch, Swafford, Matt Jones, Answer, Ortiz, Perez, Kokrak, and Peter Uihlein.
Yeah.
Gosh, you'd have told me that 12 years ago. The president of Titleist, his son, would be in the middle of a lawsuit against the PGA Tour. What are you talking about? It's just what? Why would they do that? But here we are, 11 of them. They've sued the PGA Tour. It's a antitrust lawsuit. And I think there's a lot of layers there, right, with that they go after. But I want to talk short term first, Daniel. And the short term immediate of this lawsuit is you've got 3 players that want in this week, right? I mean, they want in this week. Taylor Gooch, I believe, is around the 20th mark right now, somewhere in there. Hudson Swafford is 63rd and Matt Jones is 62nd. I mean, these 3 guys right now are inside the top 70.
Well, especially if you're Taylor Gooch and you want to finish in the top 30 because, number one, money, right?
Yeah.
Higher FedEx Cup bonus. But if he gets the Tour Championship, he gets into all 4 majors next year.
Mm-hmm.
And so for a guy these are his last, if he can play in these are his last chances to get world ranking points. Like, you don't know where your world ranking is going to be next year. You don't have a chance to play in the fall. You don't have a chance to play in January and February for world ranking points. He's looking at that top 30 mark as I can give myself some breathing room for a whole year by being into the majors. That's all they really want. They want the money and they want to be able to play the majors. And I don't think Taylor Gooch is doing this because he really wants to play the RBC Heritage. He's doing this because he wants to play in the Masters. He wants to play in the US Open. He doesn't want to have to qualify. So he wants to be able to get his FedEx Cup check, to play in the majors next year, and to keep making his live money. And that's rubbing the guys on the PGA Tour the wrong way a little bit, because they made a decision not to do that stuff so that they could preserve the majors, so that they could, preserve the FedEx Cup. And now these guys are coming back and sort of coming after them, because when you sue the PGA Tour, you're suing the PGA Tour players.
Right.
And all these legal fees, Liv is paying all the legal fees. I'm 98% sure for the plaintiffs. I believe this was part of the deal. You sign up with Liv, we'll pay your legal fees. It's not the case with the PGA Tour. That money that they're using on their defense and any sort of money that would go to these players as the result of any sort of judgment, that comes from the piece of the pie, part of which goes to the players. So I think a lot of the guys on the PGA Tour now are looking at this as, when you went, that was all right. I understood.
Yeah.
You got to do what's good for your family. You got to do what's best for yourself. And I think a lot of them were thinking quietly, let them do their thing and watch the purses on the PGA Tour rise. And that's exactly what happened. But now they've turned around and they said, you know what? My $40 million or my $80 million or my $200 million, whatever it is, isn't enough. I want to come back and I want to use the phrase of the day, to have my cake and eat it too. And I think this is a period of time, and I've talked to a number of players who have said, this is sort of where it's like, all right, we're going to hang our hat with the PGA Tour. Like we've, for whatever reason, we're not going to Live. Maybe we didn't get an offer. Maybe we decided it wasn't worth it. But Live is basically full for next year. And I think you kind of have your 48 guys who are doing Live, and you have your guys who are staying on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
I think now that there's this lawsuit, it's a little bit combative. It wasn't before between the players. I think there was sort of a code between the players, like let them do their thing, let them get their money. But now that they've turned around and challenged these guys in court, now it's a little bit like it's us and it's them.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely there's some more salt than there was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't see how you can't feel that way if you're a PGA Tour member. I mean, Billy Horschel, of course, has been his vocal. He's been out in front, and you can hear it in his voice. And he made the comment on the interview on Golf Channel and said that, look, he goes, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I'm upset about this clearly, but he says there's a lot more guys that are way more upset about this than I am. Do you get that sense too, that inside the locker room, that there's some guys that are pretty pissed off about this? And I can't imagine if Gooch, Swafford, and Jones showed up, there's going to be some words said, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think there's some words said. I think there's some friendships that probably aren't really friendships anymore. There are some group chats that have probably gone really quiet. I think it's a complicated set of emotions for the players, for the guys who stayed, because on some level there's probably a little bit of like grass is always greener, right?
Right.
Like, shit, man, should I have gone $50 million, whatever? You decide to stay, and then you're feeling like a little bit like, I don't know how this went down, and then now you see your boy, who you played practice rounds with, jump into a totally new stratosphere of wealth, right? Like this guy just got wired $12 million or whatever it is. Pat Perez said they pay that money in a lump sum. Like, this guy just got generational wealth overnight, and you're probably feeling a little bit weird about that. And you're like, all right, as long as he like kind of goes over there and does his thing, and I guess if you look at it big picture, it's probably benefiting us as well. The money's going to trickle down to us, and we got our purses raised as well. But now, you're not just going to stay over there and be happy with your new situation. You're going to turn around and come after our pie. I think there are definitely guys who don't feel great about this, who feel like these guys are, the guys who are on the PGA Tour, especially ones who had an offer from Liv, they turned down a lot of money to stay with this system. And that was a choice that they made. And they don't feel like guys who decided to take the money should now be able to reap the benefits of the system, because that was a choice. You chose between the system and the money, and you chose the money, which should come at the cost of the system, because the guys who chose the system aren't getting the money. So there's an imbalance here, right?
Yeah.
One side is sacrificing something, and one side feels like they shouldn't have to. And I think there's bitterness there for sure.
Yeah, and then you can have the conversation big picture on golf, professional golf. And I get this a lot, is that they're independent contractors. They should be able to do whatever they want to do. It's like, okay, I get that, but that's not always the case. I mean, independent contractor, you can move around, and you're a bit more of an entrepreneur, right? You don't have that one employer, which they do now.
That's what I'm saying. Like all these guys who are saying we're independent contractors, it's like, no, you're not. You're not. Definitely not anymore.
No, you're not now. No, you have an employer who's letting you do this because they just want to continue to disrupt. They know it's in benefit for them.
They just want to stir shit. They really want to stir shit.
They just want to stir it, right?
They walk around and they're like, we have no rules. You guys can play wherever you want. You guys want to have your media team in the middle of the fairway. They're basically trying to position themselves as everything the PGA Tour is not.
Right.
PGA Tour says, no, we say yes. We say yes. Do whatever you want. Do whatever you want.
Yeah. And so it's going to go down this path, right? And you start getting these antitrust lawsuits of, okay, I'm an independent contractor but I've signed up to play the PGA Tour, which has rules and regulations, which I knew going in, right? And then, so I broke those and now I'm over here. Now the question becomes in an antitrust is, did that do harm, those regulations on that individual, for Phil, right? For Ian, for Bryson?
And it's, they recommended a jury trial, which I thought was really, really interesting. I spoke to this guy, Darren Heitner, who's a big sports law expert, who was kind of walking me through the lawsuit. And he's like, how it works with monopolies is you typically have to prove that they're controlling the market in some way, right? Like they're setting the prices or they're, this or that. I have a hard time thinking that a jury is going to have sympathy for these plaintiffs when they're making more money.
Right.
The PGA Tour is not controlling prices. Prices are up. The guys who are now turning around and suing the PGA Tour are making more money than they were before. So
yeah, not a whole lot of harm being done.
That's what I'm saying. And the plaintiff is not Live Golf, right? So you could say maybe it's the players. Maybe Live Golf could say, all the PGA Tour actions are doing harm to Live Golf and not allowing Live Golf to get off the ground. But Live Golf is not the plaintiff. The plaintiff is those 11 golfers. It's very, very hard, in Darren's opinion, and I sort of share the same opinion, it's very, very hard to convince a jury of all these damages being done to you when you knew what was going to happen, number one, and you're making more money.
Mm-hmm.
By signing up for Live, you knew that you were stepping outside of the quote unquote ecosystem. And you knew that you were putting the major championships in jeopardy. And it's like if you signed up to play with the USFL, you knew that you weren't going to get to play in the Super Bowl. You just, the Super Bowl exists in the NFL. That's just like kind of how it works. So yeah, I'm not super bullish on the players' chances long term, but the way that the law works, the tie goes to the plaintiff. So the timing of the suit to launch it, the week before the FedEx Cup, they know the court's not going to have any sort of time to come to a decision. So they're hoping they can kind of slide through the back door, play in these events, maybe get into the majors and buy themselves another year of time, at least those three guys.
Yeah, I think I feel like these three will play in Memphis. Now, long term, we'll see how it plays out. You make some good points on, I think you're going to have a hard time. Yeah, these guys are worse off because of the ruling. I mean, they're making more money, for crying out loud, and they made the decision. No one forced them to go. And that's where I've come down. It's like, look, I'm not gonna say a bad word about you to go make more money. Everybody's situation's different. Look, go do it. And I've given Liv some credit, getting up off the ground, this and that. But when you have that kind of budget, you better be successful. So like I've given some credit, but then at the same time, I kind of go against the fact that, look, you're an independent contractor doesn't mean that you're going to sign up for something and there's rules and regulations of a league.
Do you remember in Talladega Nights when Ricky Bobby always goes, with all due respect, and remember, I'm saying with all due respect, and then the guy's like, that doesn't mean you can just say whatever you want. It's like, just because you're an independent contractor doesn't mean that you can just do whatever you want. That's not just like a carte blanche for like, oh, right, I'm going to go stab someone on the street. I'm an independent contractor. No, like there are still rules that apply to you. There are still, It doesn't mean that you can just free for all.
Yeah, here's a good example for you, right? You're an independent contractor, okay? And you sign with vendor X. And vendor X, driver, irons, wedges, right? Now, vendor X is like, we expect that this is kind of the way we want this to go, right? And you're like, well, I'm an independent contractor. I'm going to go sign with vendor Y and vendor Z. They're like, what? Like, no, that's not the way it works. Well, but I'm an independent contractor. You know what I'm saying? Like every
contract doesn't mean you can do whatever you want.
Right. I mean, it's just like that's what I don't get. I mean, independent contract. I mean, I get it. Like, okay, yeah, you have some more flexibility. Like, for example, when I worked for Golf Channel, even though I was part-time, right? Like, I just couldn't go out and kind of do A, B, and C because I was an employee of Golf Channel. I was getting a check from them. And like they had their partners and this and that. And like, okay, what I'm doing over here had to make sure that it wasn't conflicting with some of the things over there. And I understood that and I agreed to that and I signed up for that. And there was benefit to that, but there was also some things that I couldn't do. Now, if I no longer work for Golf Channel, I work for myself. I'm more of an independent contractor. I've got more range. I can go do business with them. I can go do business with them. But at the same time, I can't do business with one that's conflicting with another. Right. And they're in the same department. Like that's the way it works in business and in the world. No business from a direct competitor standpoint, for the most part, is going to say, hey, just go do whatever the hell you want. Like that's what I just don't understand. Like you just can't say, oh, he's an independent contractor. You do what the hell you want. No, he doesn't. No, you can't.
Because otherwise the tour would have like no rules that they could enforce. Like,
right.
You know,
can you imagine if like, look, I mean, can you imagine if this just goes that way and now these players can do whatever the hell they want? I mean, I just, all the money now on the live side, I hate to say it, but I think it'd be a slow death for the tour.
I mean, the tour has to be able to have rules. Otherwise it becomes a pure arms race, right? Like otherwise it just becomes who can pay more and we know who wins that battle. And I think Monahan said that at the Travelers. He was like, if this turns into just like a straight up arms race, just money, you know, the PGA Tour cannot compete with a Middle Eastern monarchy that has oil money that, you know, makes 500 whatever million a day on oil. You know, it's just they have to be able to have rules. They have to be able to have enforceable rules in order to exist as an organization. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, we knew it was going to get to this point, the lawsuits, and it's just starting. It's really just starting.
It's just starting. It's going to get messy. I mean, it's just the funny part of all this is like all of this is about money on both sides. Everybody needs to understand that what LIV is about and why these players went over there is about money. The posturing of the PGA Tour is about money. Like this is all about money and you kind of play your hand accordingly. Now, are there other layers that you can convince yourself of that? Yeah. That's kind of a nice perk too. Like I only have to play 14 events, but that's not the reason why you're going over there. I only have to play 3 rounds. It's a shotgun start. That's not the reason why you're going over there. You're going over there because you got guaranteed money, period. So Charles Howell III, I love you, but come on, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Like this has nothing to do with money. I mean, it's an insult, right? To hear those kinds of things. And what's funny is you hear a lot, Daniels, and I know you've heard this, is that we don't have to play as much. Right? We don't have to play as much. We have to play 14 events. This is great. And I'm making all this money. But now they're suing the tour to come back because they want to play the PGA Tour, which the minimum there is 15 events. So now you want to play 29 events?
No, they don't. No, they don't. What they want to do is they want to do what they want.
Do whatever they want to do.
They want to do exactly whatever they want to do. They want to cherry pick PGA Tour events. And, you know, who's to say they won't sue them because of that 15 event requirement?
Probably, you know?
Because if you win this, then it's like, oh, and they can't get away with anything. They can't tell us what to do at all. You know, maybe why should they be able to tell us that, you know, we have to play 15 events? You know, why should they be able to tell us that we have to apply for, you know, there's just like once you start saying, oh, they shouldn't be able to make this rule because of my independent contractor status, then as we talked about, it's a slippery slope. How many of the rules would hold up at all? But I mean, I think we're seeing that the whole play less thing. I mean, Patrick Reed is another good example, right?
Oh, God.
He looked me in the eye at in Portland and said, you know, he was tired of playing so much, and you know the way the FedEx Cup was set up, if you didn't play a couple weeks, you fell behind. It's like, that's how
that's what you signed up for.
Well, that's how competitions work. Like, if someone is going to be working in any business, if someone's going to work more than you and do good work, they're going to move ahead of you. Yeah. You know, so
look, I
can play in Asia and he's probably going to end up playing, you know, 20.
He's going to play more. He's going to travel more.
Yeah.
In Asia.
Ranking points.
It just makes, there's a lot of head scratching, like makes zero sense. But at the end of the day, we all know that it's about the almighty dollar. And some of these guys have a bone to pick with the tour. I mean, like they do. deep down there's some kind of bone to pick for whatever reason. So this is the path that they kind of walk out with fingers up. But like you said, it's already getting messy. It's going to get messier when these three walk into the locker room this week in Memphis, and then as these things start to rule down, and so much of these rulings is the shape of professional golf, because no one has more money than this LIV investment group, and how much they want to continue to spend and just lose money. I mean, I don't think anybody knows the answer to that, but there's no business model intact at this point. I mean, they're just hemorrhaging millions and millions and millions of dollars to be a major disruptor and to get it to this point. Now, this ruling is going to be huge. Official World Golf ranking points is going to be huge. I mean, these are the dominoes now that are starting to fall. Let's finish with this. Do you think, and if so, how many names will jump ship at the end of the FedEx Cup playoffs?
I don't know if it's the end of the FedEx Cup or the end of the President's Cup.
President's Cup, yeah.
Because there is a significant difference there, because there's like a couple week difference, and those weeks, I think there's a couple of live events between the end of the FedEx Cup and the beginning of the President's Cup. So they're definitely going to be wanting guys to come after the FedEx Cup to, they still have, I think, 5 of their 8 events, right, haven't happened yet. So they want guys. I think you're going to see like 3 or 4 guys in the top 50 would be my guess.
In the top 50.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything that I gather from my reporting is that they feel, I know for a fact that there have been multiple top 50 players who have said to their agents, and top 50 player doesn't mean that they're a big star, but someone who's ranked in the top 50 of the world who has said to their agent, like, hey, why don't you see what kind of offer you can get me, right? Just basically wanting just engage in discussions and see what there is.
Yeah.
And I know that those agents have gone to Liv, and Liv has said, sorry, we're closed. We're basically closed for business. I mean, they might have 1 or 2 spots that they're holding for some whales, some really big guys, but the vast majority of the 48 spots for their league are spoken for.
Yeah.
To the point where they are turning people away.
The overpaying for a Coke rack, right? The overpaying for a Henrik Stenson, like those are dried up.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think, the way it was described to me is they paid these guys, especially early on, a premium for taking this risk.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's just sort of market how it works, right? Like if you're a startup company and you're a startup music company and you want to bring over an Apple executive, you're going to have to pay him probably more than market, because he's going to be taking a risk. And in order for him to feel comfortable taking that risk, you're going to have to give him a boatload of cash. That's not really happening anymore. They don't feel like they have to pay these crazy sums going forward, because they already have a little bit of momentum. And to what you're saying about, like, how are they going to turn a profit? How are they going to continue to? It's that this is what we're talking. I don't think they think they're going to have to pay these guys these ridiculous sums forever. They feel like they got to pay initially, right? Get this thing off the ground, get it with momentum. Once they get a TV deal, once they get corporate sponsorships, once they're able to ideally sell the teams, I mean, that's a huge part of their model. They're trying to turn golf into F1, basically, where each team is owned by, maybe it's a team Adidas, or I don't know. And these are not, I'm just spitballing here, a team TaylorMade or a team Callaway, whatever it might be. Then they feel like they won't have to pay these players these crazy sums, because the teams will negotiate their own deals. They have a vision that's a long way out, 10 years, 20 years, as you explained to me. Some of these live execs are thinking 20 years down the line.
Wow.
And they're like, look, we are willing to eat this big loss in the beginning, because if we don't eat this big loss in the beginning, then it never gets off the ground and we can never progress to step 2 of our plan.
Yeah, you got to give them credit for that. I mean, that's, they're spending the money.
There are adults in the room, big time. I mean,
you give credit for that. Yeah.
You hear about Greg Norman, right? He's the face, but like, guy I spoke to at Bedminster is this guy, Atul Khosla, who is the COO of Live Golf, Chief Operating Officer. He's like 42, 43 years old. And he had a big C-level suite position with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers before coming over. And so when you speak to someone like that and you ask them, and I asked him, I was like, there's some belief that you guys are never going to make money, that this is just like a glorified PR exercise. I mean, he laughs, right?
Yeah.
He's like, why would I leave my position at an NFL team to come over here if I just thought I was being, a puppet for MBS? The executives believe that they're going to make money. They really do. Maybe they're completely naive and they're out to lunch, but they're not viewing this internally as just like a PR exercise. They believe that golf is stale and golf is vulnerable and it will take a while and it will take a lot of money up front, but they will be able to change the direction of the sport. They believe that.
Wow. Because I go back and forth in my mind is, okay, there's the brainwashing aspect of it. We know that. Is this a brainwashing exercise for Saudi Arabia with all the human rights issues and things that have happened over there? It's well documented. You have that. Number two is this or a power trip, right? Is this them saying, look, we are powerful and we'll show you how powerful we are because we can come in and be a disruptor and put people in place, to your point, the COO, and we'll get the ball moving, right? And that's, I tip my hat to them there. They got it moving and they've put out a product and they're 3 events in. Now, I think they got to get a little bigger name to win one of their events, but they're moving. And then
they're further along, I think, than anyone at the PGA Tour thought they would be at this point. I mean,
there's no question. Yeah.
I think there was a belief after February, you remember at Riviera when everyone gave like their statements of loyalty, and I think the PGA Tour thought they had won. I thought they thought that this thing would never get off the ground.
Yeah,
I think, and it was a fair assumption given how kind of clunky the rollout was. Remember, there were always these like, oh, we're going to get these events and they're going to announce it by this date, and then they're going to announce it by this date, and now there are this many players, and it just felt like it was this whole mess. And I think there was just a total unwillingness to consider that this actually might be a real thing and give them credit. I've been to the first 2 events in the U.S. It's a real thing. There's vendors, there's food, there's merchandise, there's grandstands, there's like they've built golf tournaments.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Yeah, it's real. All right, Daniel, you're the best. I appreciate it, man. We could talk forever, but man, where are we going to be? Where are we going to be when, let's say, we get to the Players Championship next year? Like, where is professional golf at that point?
I think there's a good chance it's still just completely tied up in the courts.
Okay, yeah.
Where it's like maybe there might be more. If Hudson and Gooch, and I don't remember who the third one is who's trying to play in the FedEx Cup playoffs, but if
Matt Jones,
if those guys play, I mean, if they win, then aren't all the other guys going to then do the same thing and be like, oh yeah, I want to play too, I want to play too, I want to play too.
Exactly.
So,
yep.
There's a possibility that these guys come back for a little. Who knows? It's crazy. It's really crazy.
It'd be Jones, Swafford, and Gooch. They shouldn't tee him off first thing in the morning. They should tee him off right in the middle of the day in Memphis and just
2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. Yeah. Enjoy this 100-degree heat.
Right. Hey, how does 2:30 sound?
Yeah.
Daniel, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Good stuff, dude. Thanks.